Hello, I'm Melody Tan with Barton Massage Therapy Clinic. This video is dedicated to using EFT in public. I'm going to give you some techniques on how you can use EFT in public from the most obvious to the most subtle. The very first thing is the most obvious is you just use EFT. You just literally start rubbing on the sore spot and saying your phrase out loud and start your tapping at all of your points with your reminder phrases all out loud. If you need help on what the tapping points are, please refer back to my EFT basics video, and in that video I show you all the tapping points, exactly where they are and how to use them. So the next most obvious thing would be to use EFT all the same way that you normally do. However, you just don't say your phrases out loud, you say them silently. So you would still rub the sore spot, but instead of saying your setup phrase out loud, you would say it silently to yourself. And then you would move on to your tapping, just silently saying all of your phrases to yourself. Go through all the different points, all the way through from your face, all the way down to your fingers, and doing all of the steps, even including the 9 gamut point. But of course you would do the 9 gamut point silently, and so instead of actually humming out loud and counting out loud, you would do all of that silently, and then you would go back through and do the entire process again like you normally would do with EFT, just saying everything silently. You would like to use this technique if you were, say, at the golf range and you want to improve your shot, and you don't really care what the other people on the line think about what's going on. You might also use this technique if you were in the office and you're either stressed out or you're angry over something. You could actually use the EFT. You go to your office and close your door, and you just use this portion of EFT where you're actually doing all of the tapping but silently saying your phrases to yourself. That might be a little too obvious for some people, so if you're having trouble and you need to use EFT, you can also excuse yourself and go to the bathroom. And in the bathroom, you can go into the stall or you can lock the door, and you can actually just apply EFT completely. And that is actually what I'd recommend if you have the facilities to do so. Sometimes we don't have the facility available to excuse ourselves, or sometimes the facility is available, but it's not an option to excuse ourselves. Maybe we're at a dinner with friends and family, and maybe the wait staff isn't performing well, or the food doesn't taste well, or something was said that aggravated you and you need to apply EFT right then and there. So one of the things that you could do is lightly just reach up and you would just lightly rub the sore spot. Not many people are really going to question you doing this, and just be quiet, and to yourself you would say your setup phrase 3 times as you would with regular EFT, but you're just going to say it silently. And then you would skip all of the tapping of the upper body, and under the table you can actually tap, and you would tap your thumb and your index finger, all while saying your reminder phrase to yourself. Your middle finger, remember, you skip your ring finger and go to the pinky. You would tap your pinky, and then you would tap the karate chop point. And that's where you would end. And then you would take a deep breath and let it go and see where you are, see if you need to continue tapping. Now, of course, I did that tapping down here so you couldn't really see. And what you can see is that I have a little bit of vibration in my arms, but nobody really knows what I'm doing. So it would be the similar thing. If you're under the table, you can actually tap your fingers all the way through while silently saying your reminder phrase, and then you would hit the karate chop point. And so that's a little bit more subtle way. Sometimes you're in a position where you need to go even a little bit more subtle, and I've particularly used this technique when I'm at the bowling alley and there's a lot of people around and it's going to be my turn to bowl soon, so I can't really get up and excuse myself and go to the restroom and do my tapping if I'm not bowling well, or if I'm having a rough night. So what I do is I just reach up and rub the sore spot, and I silently say my setup phrase 3 times, and then I just go straight to the karate chop point and I say my reminder phrase to myself while tapping the karate chop point. Now, when you do it this way, you actually are going to find that you need to really tap that karate chop point pretty hard, and you need to tap it probably 9 to 11 times. You want to be sure that you get a nice, good vibration. It may be that you're not even comfortable actually rubbing the sore spot. If that's the case, you can drop rubbing the sore spot, you drop all the tapping of the upper body, you drop the tapping of your fingers, and you go straight to the karate chop point, and that's the only place that you tap. Now when you do this, you want to say your setup phrase and your reminder phrases the whole time that you are tapping here at the karate chop point, and I would probably increase the number of times that I tapped here. I'd probably tap anywhere from 15 to 17 times here, and I would tap pretty hard. You want to be sure that that vibration is getting all the way through as best as it can. And finally, the most subtle way to use EFT is to learn to do it completely and totally mentally. That means that you would actually learn to visualize yourself rubbing the sore spot and saying your setup phrase. You would visualize yourself tapping at each and every point, saying your reminder phrase. All the way down, you would visualize yourself tapping the 9 gamut point, doing the 9 gamut procedure, and then going through and doing all of your tapping again for the second time. It would all be done mentally and silently. To do this, you need to actually practice tapping, practice EFT, so that you are very proficient at it. It's very effective. You kind of go into a little bit of a meditative state. You would want to use this technique if you're in a place where you really can't do any kind of tapping, like maybe you're at the theater. You cannot excuse yourself to the restroom. You cannot make a lot of movements. You can't make a lot of noise, as it would be distracting to other people. So this would be a good time when you would do this very subtle EFT tapping. Another time that you might use this particular technique is if you were to wake up in the middle of the night and you're either frightened, or you're having a panic attack, or you're in a lot of pain and you don't want to get out of bed and wake your spouse, you would actually at that point, you would want to do this type of EFT. It would give you relief without disrupting anyone. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me and I'll answer all the questions that I can. Thank you for watching and have a great day.